Thank you. Welcome to the 150th anniversary celebration of the Concord Free Public Library. My name is Emily Smith, and I'm the director of the Concord Free Public Library. I'm excited to introduce Concord Select Board Chair, Mr. Henry Dane, who has a proclamation to mark this occasion. Mr. Dane.
Thank you very much and welcome. As Chair of the Select Board, and on its behalf, a proclamation to those assembled on this occasion. Whereas Concord citizen William Monroe generously provided funds to construct the first public library building in the town of Concord, one that would be worthy of the unique literary heritage, revolutionary history, and culture of the town. Whereas Monroe enlisted the support of leading Concord citizens, who would be the stewards of the new library building and its mission through the establishment of the Concord Free Library Corporation and its Board of Trustees in 1873. And whereas their efforts were rewarded when the citizens of the town gathered here at the townhouse on Wednesday, October 1st, 1873, to dedicate the Concord Free Public Library, on the occasion of which the keynote address was delivered by Ralph Waldo Emerson, then a member of the Library Committee. And whereas that committee, established in 1852, carries forth the vision of its founders and is dedicated to bringing the services provided by the library forward to future generations. And whereas the Friends of the Concord Free Public Library since 1970 have supported the library's services and programs with funds raised by their amazing annual book sale. And whereas the Concord Free Public Library has 2 locations, a collection that contains 250,000 physical items. It is used by more than 500,000 times and welcomes more than 350,000 visitors annually. And there's more. Whereas the William Monroe Special Collection is the most complete and comprehensive archive of materials related to Concord's history, life, landscape, literature, and people. And whereas the town of Concord and the Library Corporation have been partners for 150 years, and whereas the Concord Free Public Library is celebrated by the citizens of the town and by visitors from around the world as a place that inspires a lifelong love of learning and promotes personal enrichment by connecting the community to knowledge, thought, culture, unique historical resources in a tradition of innovation and excellence with a spirit of civic pride, cooperation, and mutual respect. Now, therefore, the town of Concord, Massachusetts does hereby proclaim October 1st, 2023 as Concord Free Public Library Day, and ask all who hear this proclamation to join with us in the celebration of its 150 years of dedicated service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dane. And thank you to the Concord Select Board for honoring the library today. Next, it is my honor to introduce Concord State Representatives Simon Cataldo and Carmine Gentile, who's not here today, sorry, and State Senator Mike Barrett. Sorry. Reading from the script.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Simon Cataldo. I have the privilege of representing you in the General Court, the House of Representatives. I'm delighted to be joined here by my friend and colleague, our State Senator, Mike Barrett. How is that? A little bit better? Okay, I'll lean just a little bit. And I have here a resolution from the Massachusetts House of Representatives. This was offered, presented, and recorded in the House chamber on September 14th, 2023. And I might add that I'm honored and delighted that this was the first ever resolution that I was able to offer in the Massachusetts House. The Massachusetts General Court resolutions. Whereas the Concord Free Public Library Corporation will celebrate, it is celebrating its 150th anniversary on October 1st, 2023. And whereas the Concord Free Public Library Corporation's mission is to inspire lifelong learning and to actively promote personal enrichment by connecting community members to information, ideas, culture, unique historical resources, and each other in a tradition of innovation and excellence. And whereas in 1873, the Concord Free Public Library Corporation was created by the Massachusetts legislature for the purpose of forming and maintaining a public library in the town of Concord. And whereas the Concord Free Public Library Corporation has grown from 5 trustees, 5 library committee members, and 1 staff member in 1873 to 11 trustees, 7 library committee members, and 1 associate member, and 50 total staff members in 2023. And whereas the Concord Free Public Library Corporation has an impressive collection of 239,010 items, ranging from books to DVDs to non-traditional items in the Library of Things, welcomes more than 245,000 visitors annually, and was expanded and remodeled in 1917, 1933, 1968, 1986, 2005, and most recently, thanks to so many of you, in 2022, to better serve its ever-growing community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts General Court hereby congratulates the Concord Free Public Library Corporation on its 150th anniversary and thanks the library for its outstanding contribution to the community. And be it further resolved that a copy of these resolutions be forwarded by the Clerk of the House of Representatives to the Concord Free Public Library Corporation. Adopted and signed by Speaker of the House Ron Mariano, Clerk of the House Steve James, Senate President Karen Spilka, Clerk of the Senate Michael Hurley, myself, Senator Barrett, and our other representative Carmen Gentile. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cataldo and Senator Barrett. I'd like to introduce Library Committee member Ralph Waldo Emerson, who has returned to make a few remarks about the Concord Free Public Library. Mr. Emerson?
These modern contraptions. It has been precisely 150 years to this very day since I first stood on these steps and shared remarks celebrating the arrival of our peerless library. It was published under the title Address at the Opening of the Concord Free Public Library, and it would give me great pleasure to share a few passages with you today. Although the original was over 3,000 words, I'll restrict my recitation to a few select personal highlights. I should note that I'm particularly delighted to have my good friend, Louisa May Alcott, in the audience. Sadly, she was out of town on this day in 1873 and missed my address, but today she can make up for it. Louisa, you don't look a day older, my dear. Let me turn to the excerpts. We may all anticipate a sudden and lasting prosperity to this ancient town in the benefit of a noble library, which adds, by the beauty of the building and its skillful arrangement, a quite new attraction, making readers of those who were not readers, making scholars of those who only read newspapers or novels until now. And whilst it secures a new and needed culture to our citizens, it offers a strong attraction to strangers who are seeking a country home to sit down here. I am not sure that when Boston learns the good deed of Mr. Monroe, it will not be a little envious, nor rest until it has annexed Concord to the city. The founder, a kindly moniker to our Mr. Monroe, has followed the many admirable examples which have lately honored the country of benefactors who have not waited to bequeath colleges and hospitals, but have themselves built them, reminding us of Sir Isaac Newton's saying, quote, that they who give nothing before their death never in fact give it all. It is not easy to exaggerate the utility of the beneficence which takes this form. If you consider what has befallen you when reading a poem, or a history, or a tragedy, or a novel, even that deeply interested you, how you forgot the time of day, the persons sitting in the room, and the engagements for the evening, you will easily admit the wonderful property of books to make all towns equal. That Concord Library makes Concord as good as Rome, Paris, or London for the hour. And I'll share just one more because it refers to a citizen that I know has become a staple of this town. Mr. Thoreau passed in 1862, so he never experienced our library. But let me read this last passage. Henry Thoreau, we all remember as a man of genius and of marked character. Known to our farmers as the most skillful of surveyors, and indeed better acquainted with their forests and meadows and trees than themselves, but more widely known as the writer of some of the best books which have been written in this country, and which, I am persuaded, have not yet gathered half their fame. He too was an excellent reader. No man would have rejoiced more than he in the event of this day. Is it true that Thoreau has achieved international prominence? Some have said he's as famous as me, but I'm incredulous. Anyway, I'll leave it there. But I encourage you to read my full address in the comfortable environs of the library. Many of you will be familiar with the poem I wrote in honor of the heroes who fought at the North Bridge on April 19th, 1775. It was delivered in 1837 on the day this town dedicated the Concord Monument, a stunning obelisk set beside the Old North Bridge. And it was entitled Concord Hymn. I gather it's become rather famous. Years later, at the 1875 centennial of that battle, the first stanza was inscribed on Daniel Chester French's Minuteman statue. You likely know it. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled. Here once the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world. I'll stop there. But the full poem has 4 stanzas and 16 lines. My good friends, Anna and Neil Rasmussen, have an original version of the poem, hand-penned by me, hanging in their historic home, which happens to be located on land once owned by my grandson, Raymond Emerson. In 1873, I penned a similar collection of verses in honor of Mr. Monroe's library, a poem I entitled Library Hymn. but because my remarks ran so long, I was urged to conclude them before I could deliver the poem. I'd like to do that today, before I get the hook. By the way, I'm struck by how effectively the architects recently appended the house at 151 Main Street to Mr. Monroe's structure. I know Monroe wanted to incorporate that parcel into the library's grounds, and at long last, the Library Corporation trustees have completed Mr. Monroe's vision and preserved the house. He would be delighted. But back to the poem. Library Hymn. Near the burial ground where roads diverge, wise Monroe conspired to make a gift, the profit of which would soon emerge. Its impact would be strong and swift. Our Commonwealth in 1851 urged towns to fund a library. Monroe's grand scheme encompassed everyone. Wisdom and beauty should be fair and free. He imagined this place, laid the cornerstone. 'Twas a living room and a civic crown. Wise he was, but he could not have possibly known how this gem would enrich his native town. Spirit, we beseech all here today to hold Monroe's miracle in their hearts, a utopia where children read and play, perfect stronghold of the liberal arts. Having shared that, at long last, my work here is done, so I will yield the stage to our Mistress of Ceremonies, but first I would like to again make reference to my dear, dear neighbor, Miss Louise May Alcott.
Mr. Emerson, such a wonderful commentary you've made, and I must say so appropriate that you now are helping the entire town to have access to a wonderful library, because my first real access to a wonderful library was yours. People do not know the kindness of this gentleman. He spent hours and hours helping a very young Louisa May Alcott. I fashioned him in my mind to be Goethe, and I, Goethe's Bettina. Some of you may know there was quite a correspondence between Goethe and a young girl, and you advised me on which books. Oh, wait, Louisa, wait on that one a little while. Read this one first. It was always so helpful to me. And in Little Women, when I make reference to the wonderful riches of the library that Jo March first sees next door in the wonderful Lawrence family home, in my mind, I am in your library. And Mr. Emerson, I do have one small confession. I have always thought I should have told you this. When you came to my sister Anna's wedding in 1860 in the parlor of Orchard House, I watched Mr. Emerson give a kiss to the bride. And I thought to myself, it would almost be worth it to consider matrimony for myself if it could mean that I could have a kiss from Mr. Emerson.
Miss Alcott, if I may take the liberty, lo, these many years later, I might bestow that kiss if you should say it's acceptable.
Oh, I would be honored, sir. Honored. Oh, thank you. The God of my idolatry.
Thank you, Mr. Emerson. And please extend our thanks as well to Library Trustee John Boynton, who made your appearance possible today. I wish he could have been here to see it. I'd now like to invite all of you to join me in following the Concord Minutemen as we parade down to the library for some additional remarks, a keynote addressed by Mr. John Palfrey, president of the MacArthur Foundation, and of course, some cake. Take it away, Minutemen. settled, I'm just going to share a few words of gratitude. The Boston Daily Globe on October 2nd, 1873, reported on the library's dedication, saying, "Autumn leaves adorned the hall in many places, and Speaker's stand was beautifully decorated with flowers. You may have noticed the beautiful wreaths on the townhouse doors, and now the magnificent floral decorations behind me. I'd like to thank the Concord Garden Club, who were inspired by the Globe's article to recreate those decorations 150 years later." In particular, thank you to the talented masterminds of floral design, Jeannie Hamilton and Stephanie Haynes. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the families who contributed these flowers and greenery from their Concord gardens. We truly have Concord's abundance represented behind me. Those families are the Ruckers, the Farewell Clays, the Swains, the Crosinas, the Ingenieries, the Taylors, and the Campbells. Thank you so much for sharing your greenery with us. I would now like to introduce Library Committee Chair Laura Klein, who's going to share some remarks on behalf of the Library Committee. Thank you. Here's Laura.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to celebrate 150 years of the Concord Free Public Library. My name is Laura Klein, and I'm the chair of the Library Committee. On behalf of the Library Committee, I wanted to share some interesting facts about our committee's rich history. In 1852, the Public Library Act was passed, permitting Commonwealth towns to establish and maintain public library through municipal taxation. A 5-member library committee was established with the start of the first public library in Concord. For those of you who are counting, this means that the library committee members have been stewards of Concord's public library for 172 years. The public-private management of the Concord Free Public Library that we know today was established through the Act of Incorporation approved by the Massachusetts Legislature on March 24, 1873. The Act of Incorporation granted the self-perpetuating Board of Trustees, aka the Library Corporation, the power to hold real and personal property in addition to books and objects of curiosity and art, and the town's Library Committee to advise the library director in their role overseeing library staff, policies, and the expenditure of municipal funds. Ralph Waldo Emerson served on the Library Committee from 1853 to 1882. He served both when the library was in the townhouse and once the Concord Free Public Library we know today first opened their doors behind me on October 1st, 1873. The Library Committee and the corporation had joint meetings to establish the rules and policies when the Concord Free Public Library first started. You can see those original rules on display in the Commons today. That tradition of collaboration continues today with the Library Corporation attending Library Committee meetings. The Library Committee, which has since grown to 7 members, continues to work closely with the librarian, now known as the Library Director, to establish the rules and regulations for use of the library. The Library Committee looks forward to continuing the long-standing partnership between the town and the Library Corporation for many more years to come. On behalf of the Library Committee, congratulations to the library on its 150th birthday. I would now like to introduce Matt Boger, the Vice President of the Friends of the Concord Free Public Library. Matt?
Wonderful partnership. Thank you so much. And happy birthday, library! Wonderful to see Concord out here celebrating academia, books, knowledge, but more important, an area to gather and collaborate. Libraries have changed so much. It is a place to commune for people of all ages, and we are thrilled to be here. My name is Matt Boger, and I'm honored to represent the friends of the Concord Public Free Library and all of your friends. Our table's right there. Please come and join us. The Friends of the Concord Free Public Library is a nonprofit charitable organization that supports the library's vital role in this wonderful community. For over 50 years, and through the generosity of our community, which is Concord, the Friends have helped the library offer a variety of enhanced services and creative programs for people of all ages. And when I say all ages, I see a toddler here that could be 3, and I'm not going to point out, but I could see an individual here who could be in their 90s. So literally of all ages. Just to list a few of some of the activities that we are pleased to help support through your wonderful donations of buying books. The Concord Festival of Authors, which is a fantastic literary review that's become famous throughout New England. The world-famous Concord book sale right here on these grounds. We are pleased to be the largest one-day volunteer event in Concord, with over 200 individuals who get here at 6 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock. It's a great community event. We encourage you all to participate. The Miller Award, which is coming up on October 21st, and that is actually going to Bob Gross, a famous author here in Concord. Without a doubt. Free museum passes to things like the Gardner Museum, the MFA, and the Science Museum. Come and utilize those. Free poetry series, free film series, free musical series, free author series, children's programs, media. Every year, the Friends purchases hundreds of films. The library is a perfect place for free places to discover new movies and old movies. I just watched one with Tom Cruise that was just released 2 days ago, so it was awesome. Professional development for staff and supporting of staff at all levels. We are pleased to be the library's friends. We are pleased to be your friends. Please utilize. Our book sale is open right now too. You can participate. And I do want to give a small plug to the gala that we're holding here on October 14th. This is a community event. We are so pleased to be part of it. Thank you for attending. And I'm so pleased to introduce our collaborator, Sherry Litwack. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As Matt said, I'm Sherry Litwack, and I'm the president of the Concord Free Public Library Corporation Board of Trustees. Today is not only the library's 150th anniversary, but it is also the 150th anniversary of the Concord Free Public Library Corporation. If you are a Library Corporation trustee or former trustee, please raise your hand. Happy anniversary. William Monroe, a native and lover of Concord, wanted to donate land and a building for the purpose of a public library that would be worthy of the people of Concord, who had contributed so much to the literary and revolutionary heritage of our town and country. However, he did so in an unusual way. He created the Concord Free Public Library Corporation, a charitable organization established through an act of legislature that would own and oversee the library's buildings, grounds, and content, including the art. The town would be responsible for the staff and operations. Thus began the very successful public-private partnership between the corporation and the town. We are so fortunate to have Library Director Emily Smith, the Town Library Committee, Town Manager Kerry LaFleur, and the Select Board as our partners today. We have come to appreciate Monroe's wisdom in so many ways. At the dedication in 1873, he said, "I am sensible, however, that the power of usefulness of this, as of every other institution designed for the public benefit, must depend largely upon the degree of regard for it and of liberality in supporting it, which may be manifested by the community for whose benefit it is intended." In that spirit, when it opened, the people of the town of Concord donated books, pamphlets, engravings, coins, bronze, and medals to greatly expand the library's collections. And the community of Concord has had high regard for and liberally supported the library ever since. We think he would be pleased. Shortly after the Library Corporation purchased the historic house next door in 2013, we discovered an amazing item in special collections. I'm going to show it to you. You won't be able to see it, but then you can come and get a closer look, but this is what I'm referring to. It was a schematic that represented Monroe's vision of the library. There were 3 buildings labeled library, lending library, and art museum. He thought it was important for art to be a part of the library as a way of bringing culture to the people of Concord before there was a museum or art association. Only 1 building was built, but it combined all 3 concepts. Perhaps even more fascinating, when we looked carefully at a photo of the original library in 1873, we could see a small portion of the house next door. We realized that when he drafted his vision with the 3 buildings, he was already thinking that this property should become a part of the library. How exciting that his vision was finally realized 150 years later. As we began our early planning for the library renovation and expansion, with the input of many community members and groups, the library committee's long-range plan, and staff, we read a book called Bibliotech: Why Libraries Matter More Than Ever in the Age of Google. This book, written by John Palfrey, inspired us to draft a plan and begin a capital campaign. When some people would question whether libraries were needed anymore, Palfrey's book helped us make our case. Not only were libraries not going away, they played a more important role in communities than ever before. We invited John Palfrey to speak about his book and were able to show him our preliminary plans. He told us we were doing exactly the right things and encouraged us to proceed. Almost a decade later, the library renovation and expansion was completed. Today, we are so excited and honored to have John Palfrey come back and see what his book inspired. I'd love to tell you a little bit more about him. John Palfrey is president of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, one of the nation's largest philanthropies. He is a well-respected educator, author, legal scholar, and innovator with expertise in how new media is changing learning, education, and other institutions. Throughout his career, he has demonstrated a commitment to rigorous thinking, disruption, and creative solutions, often made possible by technology, accessibility of information, and diversity and inclusion. Palfrey has extensive experience in social change spanning the education, nonprofit, and philanthropic sectors. Prior to joining the foundation, Palfrey served as head of school at Phillips Academy, Andover. He was the Henry N. S. III Professor of Law and Vice Dean for Library and Information Resources at Harvard Law School. In that role, he expanded the library's reach and services, finding innovative ways to use digital technologies to enhance the school's scholarship and teaching. He is a member of the Academy of Arts and Sciences and former board chair of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Palfrey is a founding board chair of the Digital Public Library of America. He has published extensively on how young people learn in a digital era, as well as the effects of new technologies on society at large. He is the author or co-author of several books, including Safe Spaces, Brave Spaces, Diversity and Free Expression in Education, Born Digital, How Children Grow Up in a Digital Age, and of course, Bibliotech: Why Libraries Matter More Than Ever in the Age of Google. It is my great great pleasure and honor to present John Palfrey.
Sherry, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction and for inviting me back to Concord, Mass. I couldn't be more thrilled to be with you here to congratulate you on the 150th anniversary of this extraordinary library and, of course, the reopening of your new edition. I realize that I am the only thing standing between some young people and cupcakes, so I promise I will not be especially long, not quite as long as Mr. Emerson was 150 years ago, with all respect to Mr. Emerson. But I do think that it is important that we pause on days like these to take a moment when things go right and to take the time to celebrate what you've done. We should celebrate what you have built and sustained, which is a public library for more than 150 years. And today, as you unveil to the world new facilities set for the next generation of library goers, you will open new worlds to children and families and new neighbors for the next 150 years in this special space. We should pause to celebrate when things go right, because it is not so easy for institutions to persist this long these days, for years that are counted in the hundreds. It takes good leadership, community, investment, ideas, listening, and evolving. It takes reckoning with our past and building for the future. You've done that today, and you deserve the thanks of all of us, even those who are not members of your own community. And we should pause to celebrate also because there is so much struggle today. Whether the rise of artificial intelligence, the ravages of climate change, the wars that rage around the world, the persistent stain of racism, we have very real challenges to grapple with. So it's important, I think, to celebrate our wins when people come together and plainly get things right, as you have in this community. And I pause today also to connect what you are doing here, what you are celebrating, to the longer and larger arc, the history, present, and future of American democracy. I appreciate that some may roll your eyes and say that is too lofty. This is just a library celebration after all. Or you may groan because here comes someone from Chicago to Concord and think that I may have to talk about Minutemen. Respect them as I do. Wonderful Minutemen guiding our walk. I promise I won't quote any Minutemen, but I may quote Emerson again a little bit later. But no, despite the risk of eye rolls and groans, I believe in my heart of hearts that what you are doing today does connect in an important and inspiring way to our democracy in America. I stand here with you today as just another American citizen. I'm not a politician looking for your vote. I'm not a fundraiser asking for your dollars. I'm a citizen who cares, along with you, about this community of Concord, about all 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, and all the tens of thousands of communities across America. I stand with you here today because I'm worried about our democracy. I'm worried about American democracy and democracy around the world. I think we are, in fact, in crisis. I should note that I'm an extremely optimistic person, in fact. I tend not to worry, and I do not tend to histrionics. But for the first time, I'm truly worried about the scale of the crisis we face. Today, October 1st, 2023, may well be remembered, and should be, as the 150th anniversary of this library. And if you were with us before, you know that this is officially Concord Free Library Day in Massachusetts. It should also not be just remembered as another day in which our government had its doors open. And yet that is in fact what the headlines of our newspapers would tell us about today, that we should celebrate the mere functioning of our democracy hours after a standoff in Congress. Today should be about more than the mere operation of government's most basic functions. And yet time and again, we settle for the weakest and most tenuous forms of democracy. And of course, America is not alone in our polarization, nor the spread of misinformation. We are not alone in the decline of our local news coverage or our growing inequality or in our racism. We're not alone in our efforts to suppress the votes of those with less power or the steady erosion of trust in our institutions. Authoritarianism is on the rise around the world. Unfortunately, we have a lot of company. But I will not go on further about the crisis. We all know it and feel it, and the purpose of today is not to make one another depressed, but rather to celebrate and eat cupcakes in a moment. I promise. That is why what I think you are doing today matters so much here in Concord, Massachusetts on Concord Free Public Library Day. Today's event to me is about investing in communities small and large. Today is about investing in the local institutions that bring us together. I believe the best answer to our polarization, to the coming apart of the fabric of our communities, is in fact local solutions. When we come together to face and address local problems, we tend to see one another more clearly. to support one another, to see beyond our differences, and toward how we can work together. Libraries in general, and the Concord Library specifically, are the types of institutions that form the bedrock of American democracy. We know that trust is falling in our core institutions such as Congress and the courts and the news media, but not so for libraries. In study after study, people trust Emily, and people trust the libraries in our communities. I think, in fact, we should have a round of applause for the library staff of Concord and all the volunteers for all that they do. Truly, along with our teachers and first responders and volunteers, they hold our communities together. We need to do more, of course, than to invest in our libraries to save and rebuild American democracy. It is not so simple, sorry to say, as what you've just done, as good a start as this. Just as I would connect today to the larger heart of history, I would also connect your work on this library, though, to larger national efforts to bring local initiatives together. There is, in fact, lots of reason for hope for our democracy. Across political lines, a bipartisan group of Americans has formed an effort called More Perfect. You can find it online. There are plenty of ways to help. More Perfect joins Americans who care about democracy in working toward 5 goals: civic education, national service, bridging divides, trusted election, and local news. These are called the 5 Sustainable Democracy Goals. And I hope you might consider ways that you can support these goals along with us. At the MacArthur Foundation, where I serve as president, we have focused on several of these goals. One is civic education, supporting mandatory civic education in our home state of Illinois in both middle schools and high schools, which is now the law of the state. We've supported Danielle Allen's efforts towards civic education and training teachers here in New England. We're stepping up with others to put $500 million toward re-energizing local news across the country, a field in crisis, but also one field with lots of hope and opportunity. As one way to get involved, if you are not supporting the Concord Bridge, I have my free weekly nonprofit newspaper right here. I hope you will consider doing that as one takeaway from today. And of course, supporting the amazing Concord Free Public Library in whatever it's doing, and the Friends Group is well represented here. Go to the table. I hope there's a whole stampede to the table in 1 minute. I promise to avoid too many invocations of Emerson or Thoreau or Minutemen, but as you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson did speak at the opening of this library 150 years ago and a few minutes ago on the town steps, beautifully of course. As an active member of the library committee and a devoted supporter, Emerson predicted that day that the opening of the library would lead to lasting benefits for the community. Quote, he said, and I think this is one of the best parts of your speech, sir, as you did too, "We may all anticipate a sudden and lasting prosperity to this ancient town in the benefit of a noble library, which adds, by the beauty of the building and its skillful arrangement, a quite new attraction, making readers of those who were not readers." Not for the first time, Emerson was prescient in those remarks. Here we stand today, enjoying the benefit of that civic investment 150 years ago. And you today rededicate your efforts the next 150 years. May your efforts make readers of those who were not readers before, supporting all those who wish to engage in your vibrant community of Concord, Massachusetts. I stand here with you today not asking for your vote, although I certainly think we should all vote every time, regardless of our party. I'm not asking for your money, though I certainly urge you to support the Friends of the Public Library and other good causes that merit your generosity. But I am asking that each person recognize the role that we have to play in our democracy, no matter our age. I hope everyone will join all those who have made today's celebration possible, all those who have committed to get and stay in the game of actively, not passively, but actively supporting our democracy. The dictionary may say that democracy is a noun, but it really ought to be a verb. We each have a crucial role to play. At this time of genuine peril in the world, we need to repair, to rebuild, and re-energize democracy, building block by building block. Here today in Concord, Mass. is a really good start. Congratulations. Once again, Concord, Massachusetts, this country, and all who care about our democracy, we owe you a major debt. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Palfrey. We're honored to have you here today to share your insights. Thank you very much. Before we conclude the speaking portion of the event and get on to the cupcakes, I just wanted to share a few final notes of gratitude. Thank you to Crosby Design for that stunning anniversary arch that we processed through. Thank you to Concord Tea Cakes and Stop and Shop for today's refreshments. And thank you to Richard Paisley Photography as well for capturing this moment. I'd also like to thank Ms. Louisa May Alcott and Mr. Emerson for being here today. Please be sure to ask them questions about what books they checked out from the Concord Free Public Library. We actually have several of them on display inside the library today for you to see, as well as a fantastic display about the history of the library up in our newly renovated art gallery. It will be up for 3 months, so I recommend you come and take your time going through it. I'd also like to thank our state representatives and senator who are here, as well as town manager Carrie LaFleur for joining us. And of course, I want to thank our 150th committee, which included our committee chair, assistant curator Jesse Hopper, and library staff members Rachel, Barbara, Ricky, Michelle, Andy, Liz, Karen, and Laura. Thank you very much to the staff. I also want to thank our stakeholder members that were on the 150th committee, including trustee Sherry Litwack, director of development Sophia Ganam, Friends Boards members Haley Maybury, Rebecca Lemaitre, Richard Fallander, and Library Committee members Laura Klein, Farhana Sheets, and Sarah Pacelli. Finally, thank you to all of you for being here to celebrate this occasion with us. I now invite you to come enjoy some cake while the Concord Carlisle High School pep band, led by Mr. Chris Nossi, are going to play some festive music for us. Happy anniversary, Concord Free Public Library. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Concord Free Public Library! Happy 150th birthday, Concord Free Public Library!
One of my favorite things about the Concord Free Public Library is the poetry series sponsored by the Friends of the Library, and it's typically Sunday afternoons from October through April or May, and I can think of nothing more satisfying, relaxing, enjoying, and stimulating than spending an hour and a half with a couple of poets reading from their works, having a question and answer after they're finished with their reading, and imbibing on refreshments and eating cookies and just enjoying the ambiance of being inside the Concord Free Public Library.
As a way of bringing culture to the people of Concord before there was a museum.
My birthday wish for the library is for it to continue on into the future. I love that it has recently had the new expansion, and like my birthday wish is that it grows further and further down the block so that very soon it encompasses a lot more of Concord, as it already does in our hearts.
My favorite things about the Concord Public Library are this is a place where you can find the classics of American literature, whether it's the writings of Herman Melville or Nathaniel Hawthorne or Ralph Waldo Emerson or Henry David Thoreau. This is one of the places where the new voice of America was achieved and heard. The new voice of the American experience was emerging in the 1830s and the 1840s. And there are many fine traditions here at Concord Public Library that encapsulate that spirit of freedom and independence and self-reliance on which our country is built.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Concord Library! Happy birthday, Concord Free Public Library!
Happy birthday, Concord Library!
Happy birthday, Concord Library, the home of Emerson, Thoreau, Alcott, Fuller. Wish you 100 more years.
Yeah, what she said.
Happy birthday, Concord Public Free Library. You've been a huge part of my life and my children's life for 20 years, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.